in 2016, I moved into my first apartment. And I had a complete meltdown about the number of things that I owned because I could not fit my wardrobe at that time, which was made up of hundreds of pieces, physically into the space of my new apartment's wardrobe. A lot of stuff was sitting in boxes, inaccessible, and that was really the first time I decided it was time to let some things go. My initial goal was just to be able to declutter enough for my wardrobe to fit inside my actual wardrobe space. I stopped shopping for a year, and slowly, over that period of time, I reduced my wardrobe to about 50 pieces in total. And as I went through that process, I learned the art of letting stuff go. That process led me to reassess not just my wardrobe, but everything in my life. Maybe even realistically, claim my life for the first time. And let me explain to you why. This was the first time that I truly understood that I was in control of my belongings. I had control over what I owned, what I chose to keep, and I also learnt that all of that stuff affected my daily life. So the process of decluttering took a solid year. In that time, I stopped shopping, knowing that if I added any new pieces to the mix, I would simply confuse myself. I didn't want to get distracted by new purchases. I simply wanted to make sense of what I already had. And I had a lot. So there was a lot to play with. Oh, gotta let Gary in. Oh, blanket for anticipated Gary. There we go. Wasn't I right? Hello, gorgeous. You enjoying the sunshine? It's still cold, but the sun's out. Through that year, I slowly made my way through my wardrobe without having a particular target in mind. At the beginning, I certainly didn't have a desire or a plan to narrow everything down to 50 pieces. That's just what ended up happening. Each month I would contemplate everything I owned. I considered what they meant to me and their worth in my wardrobe. So things are very different now. I own double of what I did by the end of 2016. More color, a greater variety of things for different situations. But by the end of 2016, things had become very narrow. I reduced my wardrobe color palette to black, white, gray, and denim. And my main activity at that time was work. So most of the pieces in my wardrobe were work appropriate. I got rid of anything trend driven or complicated. I found that I had a lot of different genres in my wardrobe. I did, didn't I? So I narrowed those down. I got rid of anything that made me feel bad for any reason. I also got rid of things that were flashy. I got rid of anything that I didn't know how to wear or style. Again, I must emphasize this whole process took a year. And I didn't really know what the final goal for the outcome was. But in the meantime, I was taking notes on everything I was saying goodbye to. I was writing down why I was getting rid of it. And I was also writing and editing shopping lists for the future. So while my wardrobe is a lot larger now, I see elements of all of those decisions I made all those years ago in my wardrobe today. Why is there a dog? Should be criminal offense to keep a dog outside. You're not noisy like that, are you? I think a big part of the decision-making process at that time was quite linked to my desire for authenticity. Learning of authenticity became a part of the process. I think my true aesthetic is very, very simple, fuss-free. So I basically had to let go of a lot of layers of who I wanted to be, or at least who I wanted people to think that I was. The ways in which I wanted to present myself through youth and young adulthood. I embraced who I really was at that time, deciding that that alone was enough. A big part of the process of decluttering my wardrobe, though I didn't really know it at the time, was defining my style. Energetically speaking, these exercises in making authentic choices was probably the most impactful series of decisions that I have ever made. And now is the time to make a big announcement. I have created a new offering for you. My new offering is a meditation and methodology for aligning your wardrobe with where you are or where you want to be in life. If you are already in my Patreon community, whether as a paid or free member, you already know this and received an early bird loyalty discount. It's now live and it's available for sale on my Patreon page. You do not need to be a member to access it. And here is a little sample of what I say about wardrobe energy. So the whole point of the energy audit questions identify whether on balance you spend more time enjoying your wardrobe or more time feeling negatively about your wardrobe. And I think as women, we're indoctrinated in this male world to think that if we spend a whole lot of time obsessing about our wardrobes, that's somehow superficial. It's, not based in reality. But I completely disagree with that notion. I really think there's something so innately personal about getting dressed. If there is a disproportionate amount of energy spent feeling miserable in what we wear, I don't think that shows a character flaw. What I think that shows is a misalignment in the core self and the physical daily activities of the self. For me, that means that there is value in putting time and effort into trying to workshop what is going on, workshop this negativity, remove some of this negativity, remove some of this energetic drain of disliking your outfits every day, of not feeling confident in your outfits every day, of getting frustrated every day because you can't find something to wear, feeling triggered because your ex-boyfriend broke up with you when you wore that sweater. All these little things, I think it's worth investing time into trying to remedy all that so that when you go into the world in the future, you step into the world confidently, feeling like yourself, or feeling at least like you're moving in the right direction, in the direction that you want to be moving in life. And for me, it seems like if wardrobe is a way to trigger that transition, to trigger that conversation with yourself, it might be just something that seems superficial, but actually is probably something that is able to help you iron out some of the creases of your life. I mean, maybe starting in the wardrobe and maybe expanding to other areas of life. That is what I would like for you. Energy is limited. If you spend time every morning feeling frustrated about what you're wearing, feeling negative about what you're wearing, feeling uncomfortable in what you're wearing, feeling cold in what you're wearing, feeling not confident, by the time, let's just say theoretically, you're a modern woman who works, by the time you get to that workplace, you've already experienced a range of negative emotions which have already drained you in some way. And how are you supposed to perform at your best? And I don't mean in a productive work sense kind of a way, I mean in a happy, balanced life kind of a way. How are you supposed to function at your best when you've already had these energetic drains, when you've already been down on yourself, when you've already doubted your self-worth, when you've already not felt confident? I think realigning your wardrobe to be a more positive experience is a way of naturally saving yourself energy. I think if you can get a handle on that, well, honestly, move into other areas of life. And that has been my personal experience of balancing my wardrobe. So here were some of the benefits of having my first small wardrobe of 50 pieces. Less items in my wardrobe meant less confusion, less decision making, satisfying outfits that matched my emerging style. Obviously, more space in my wardrobe and home, saving money on not buying things that weren't right for me, making a little bit of money selling some things that weren't right for me, learning about the basics that I needed to get by, i.e. my wardrobe essentials, and generally increasingly finding more wardrobe satisfaction as my wardrobe began to match my energy. When I started the process of decluttering my wardrobe, I had no idea that it would extend to the rest of my home. but it did. I ended up removing a great deal of belongings that I had carried with me for a long time, yet had no purpose. At a time where I needed all of my creative energy so I could transform my life, I got rid of my whole entertainment setup, including my TV, DVD player, DVDs, CDs, you name it, and eventually even the unit itself. While I got rid of lots of different things, this was probably the most impactful removal that I made from my life. I was able to use the empty space that I created to get bored, an essential part of the creative process. I had more room in my space for wellness activities such as yoga and more time to do them in, as I wasn't entertaining myself all the time. Importantly, it allowed me to create circumstances which would make moving to the country a few years later a lot easier. Removing these things ultimately gave me freedom. When there are less distractions around, it's easier to get specific and focused. It's easier to define your direction and to learn what your values are. It's easier to physically move towards those values. Of course, this process ended up extending to all areas of my life. Work, social activities, hobbies, fitness. So while I started off just wanting to simplify my wardrobe, I ended up simplifying my whole life. We live in a scarcity world, and beyond advertising, branding, I'm not sure it's necessarily by design. It's just the way the cookie is crumbled. Maybe it's a consequence of living in a time when we can see what everyone's doing, what everyone has, that it's so much easier to feel like a failure when our lives aren't full. I mean, I'm not even sure it's an excuse. It seems more like a flex that people say they don't have time to get to the things that are important to them. We operate in a capitalist, productivity-focused mindset. What I would encourage you to do is that when something leaves your life, maybe you desire to remove something from your life, to not bemoan the space that appears. I think we are uncomfortable with space in 2025. And honestly, probably it is the space most of us spiral in. The space where you once had a boyfriend or a husband or a friend or a friendship group or a job. But you need to learn to reframe that new space as a gift, as a new chapter, as a new opportunity, and actually find a way to try to celebrate it, dwell in it for a little while, expand into it. It's hard to do at first and it takes practice, but it is the artistry of letting stuff go. I want you to rebrand any new space that appears in your life from now on as more for me. Repeat this with me. When something leaves your life, whether you wanted it to or not, learn to say, oh well, more for me. Doesn't matter if you really believe it or not, you'll learn to. Anytime anything goes wrong in my life and a new space appears, this is exactly what I say to myself. It doesn't always make sense, but the more I repeat it to myself, the more on board with it I am. What does it mean exactly? Now you have more energy to put into yourself or into something that you value, perhaps moving in a new direction. Over the year that I first downsized, I developed an understanding of what I wanted in the future. While it took me a couple more years to get more specific and to actually believe what I wanted could happen and some more time to action it, that year kicked the whole process off. I learned I didn't want to live in the city anymore. I wanted to make a living from my creativity and that I wanted to spend more time in nature. Here we are. I learnt so many crucial life lessons the year that I started decluttering my life. I learnt that letting stuff go helps me see things more clearly. When there are less distractions around, it's easier to get specific, clear, and focused. It's easier to see your values and understand what direction you want to move in. So you can intentionally create space for the things you value the most. This can help guide you. Now I find letting things go a lot easier. Because I've learnt that life is easier when you can focus on fewer things, but the few things that matter the most. It's also helped me become far more intentional with what I buy and make decisions based on long-term plans. Learning the art of letting things go has been essential to living a life that represents my values. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for stopping by. A reminder, my new offering is here. You can find the link in the description box. A huge thank you to you if you have already purchased it. Thank you for supporting my work as always. I'll see you soon. Bye.